of them turn out to be gaps, right? So a strong opening means a close above yesterday's high in 1 minute or 5 minute time frame. And just that is not enough with above average volumes. Now, above average, a lot of people define it differently, but all of them use as a comparison the 20-day or 50-day daily average volume. So what I would say is, if in the first minute itself the volume is 10% of the average 20 or the 50-day volume, or 50%, or 50% more than the daily the smallest daily volume in the last 5 days, so that would be an average, like a significant volume and a significant price move. And so that is what the scan is scanning. Okay, now if you do this in general, it as a byproduct, not only it catches episodic pivots, but it generally also catches today's strongest names. Like, for example, you guys already know this, a lot of stocks, they move in groups, right? So for example, by some reason there is some news, good news for sugar stocks, then you would see that all of them will fire up immediately. So on a given day, if you do this, you would also sort of get to know, and this is a bottoms up approach to know what are the strongest stocks today, in general. So that is one byproduct of doing this. Now, what is the logic of strong starts, and why do they work, right? So the logic is very simple, that if there is something happening, there's something happened about the stock overnight, okay, which is extremely bullish, and which turns the sentiment of the investors towards the stock very bullishly. That then someone somewhere with a very fat purse, who is really already interested in the stock, would know and would already make positions overnight, pre-market, right? And if that happens, then a stock would open strongly on high volumes. And if that happens, then what happens is, the probability that on that day, on that given day, forget about next month, next week, next year or so, but just on that day itself, the probability that that stock might do well uh, increases. Okay, now if the general market is supportive, then the probability increases more so, because if a general market is bullish, then by the very fact, 60 to 70% of the stocks would go in the direction of the general market, right? And on top of that, if the individual stock is even more bullish because of something that has happened overnight, that basically puts the probability in your favor. Okay, so that's the logic. Now, uh, that bullish overnight action, which is the episode, or what the reason of whatever happened, uh, is it important? Is it important to know that reason? I mean, for me, I don't know. I mean, good if you know. Like, for example, most of the time, a lot of that, not most of the time, a lot of the time, good earnings would result to a strong start, right? So in that case, you already know the earnings. But a lot of times, the reason is not clear. Now, many people actually seek for the reason, which I don't think is a right thing to do, because price generally foretells everything. uh, Good if you know, right? But it actually doesn't matter, because it's already reflected in the price. And because I sort of trust the guy with the fat purse, and he knows his thing, and he's done all the work for me, I just follow the price.
Follow the price.
Now,
Now,
there are
there
some
are
limits.
some limits.
Any if someone is
If someone is
there is an
there
echo
is an
here.
echo here.
Hello. Okay, now it's gone. Okay, right. So where was I? So see now, that's the uh, can I request you to mute yourself, please, Bishalda? Bishalda? Okay, maybe. All right. So extremely sorry for that. So okay. So I just explained sort of the logic why strong start might work. Now, there are definitely limitations, right? So I'll also talk about the limitations. The first limitation is basically it's an assumption that an episodic pivot or an episode or whatever that has happened will definitely lead to a price move with volume. And many times that might not be true. And so there is something called delayed episodic pivot reaction. So so it's basically an assumption. So that assumption might not be all the time correct. And the second limitation is that not all overnight price move with high volumes are significant, right? So that might not actually turn out, that might not actually uh, uh, relay itself in a good price action, be it on that day or in the future also. So not all of the EPs, or sorry, not all of these strong starts would actually lead to a meaningful move, right? So so that's these two are the major limitations of using strong start. Okay, so with that out other way, let me so the other thing I want to add is this logic of strong start new? Not at all. It's not a revolutionary logic, and many, or I would say most traders, successful traders already use it. Many of you already know Manas uses it a lot, and to be honest, I for the first time uh, uh, got to know this word SS from Manas only. I am a very recent trader. Other people who already also use, from people who like the Twitter Janta, Ray from Traderline uses this a lot. He wouldn't call it strong start, he would call it gaps, but gaps are also other form of strong starts, right? And if you want to read a book, the O'Neill Disciple book by Catcher Morales, they have a specific TGP called tradable gap pivots. They also use something like this. So this is not a revolutionary idea or something. Okay. Now, other limitations of the scanner per se in catching episodic pivot is that it will only catch. Hold on. Yeah, yeah. So, okay, I will just very briefly introduce. I've been already calling episodic pivot. So, what is episodic pivot, right? So, episodic pivot is an episode or an event that turns the sentiment overly bullish. If this happens after market close, buyers will pile up overnight, and that's why the strong start will appear in the next day. Now, this episode can be uh, any event. Most of the time, that's earnings. This is the most widely known, but that happens 4 times a year for sure. Some of them are good, so they will come up. But there are other events as well, like for example, order wins for a lot of power companies, or the infra companies. Order wins a new product, like Kalparswek, new product, that AI thing, right? So, and that will change a lot of other things. Management change also sometimes is a huge uh, uh, episodic pivot, right? So, for example, Samhi's result came tonight after market. So, will this lead to a meaningful a move tomorrow if investors like the result a lot? Obviously, it will not obviously, but with a high certainty, Samhi will come in tomorrow's SS list, right? So, something like that. Now, uh, the recent examples are there were 2 3 today, and I'll show you that in a while, in a moment. But there are others, like for example, Bajaj Healthcare last week, or the week before, Aeroflex couple of days ago, SRF couple of days ago. So Aeroflex, I'll show each and every one of them in using the charts. But Bajaj Healthcare, there was some news about them getting the right to sell some chemical exclusively. So that was the episode. Aeroflex was a very good result. SRF was about some reduction in price of some raw material, something like that. DYCL last year's earnings. So DYCL had earnings yesterday, or I think sometime yesterday. But the earnings, the reaction was not so great. But DYCL earnings last quarter had a really good result, and it did come up in the strong start scanner. And I'll also show you the move, right? So these are some recent examples. Now, there is a small disadvantage to that as well, in the way I have written the strong start scanner, is that it will miss an episodic pivot that will happen during market hours, because I'm using the first one 3 and 5 minute candle. So if the result happened during hours and there's a price spike due to that, that will be missed, right? So the other disadvantage, especially if you are tracking earnings, is that it'll miss an EP that doesn't take out previous day's highs. So for example, Ixigo today was an EP, like it may not be a very good result. I mean, I don't know if it's a good result or not, but anyways, there was earnings yesterday and it spiked today with volumes, but the first 5 minutes candle did not take out previous day high, which is what it scans, okay, above yesterday's high, and that's why it was missed by the strong start scanner. So there are a couple of disadvantages, but again, I would look the flip side to it is like it will not have a lot of names, okay? So it will possibly only have names which are uh, 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 a smaller basket of names, okay? Now, with that, 18 minutes gone. Let me show you today's list, and in the same time, at the same time, I will also show you my step-by-step routine. Okay, and again, I would like to really stress on this fact. Emphasize that not knowing is not the bottleneck neck of not doing well in the market, right? Because the information knowledge is already there. It's how to use that in a way which you do every day, make it a system so that it becomes a, a system one level job, like a brushing your teeth, right? Not a system two level thinking, which is like vote kisko dena hai, feeding a stray dog is good or bad. So on those kind of questions you need to think a lot. It's not like this, like uh, but you need to have a system to make it like brush your teeth. Anyways, uh, I tend to spend a lot of time on this. So, anyways, you get my point. So here's my step-by-step routine. I've been doing this for like last 5-6 months now. So I almost do it regularly. It is, like I said, now has become a part of my system, and it doesn't take much time, right? So monitor the list right from 9:15, 9:16 onwards, and it as soon as it's time, it starts to populate here. So Sirma was the first. Sirma, ME, SIS, these were the first three names in the first minute it populated. And uh, and then you basically try and monitor them, right? And you see if any of the names in the strong start list is already there from your red list. Now, what's the red list? This is your high priority list, which I'm sure, or I at least hope that all of you guys prepare your actionable setup list, every day. Now, some of that list, for some people that will be longer, some people that will be shorter, right? So you already should have that. So for me, for example, Sirma was not in the list. Hold on. Um, yeah. So for me, Sirma was not in the list till yesterday, okay? Because this is not my setup. Like my setup is like a flag. I generally don't trade this. I would more trade things like, oh, hold on. I would more trade things which are above 50, 1021, and like trending up, right? But yesterday I added this because I knew from Twitter that Sirma had a really good result. So then I put it on here, and and so this was already in my list, right? So Sirma came like that. So if so, I will monitor if any name is already in the red list. So if it is, then because it's also your part of the list which you will want to buy, as in from the red list, it will give you can give I generally give a high priority. Now the third thing is, once the list is ready, now the full list becomes ready by 9:20. 9:20 के बाद फिर volume आए तो मतलब it's not so it's not the overnight volume, right? So I generally take the data till 9:20, and then the moment I get the full list, what I do is I scan their daily charts. Okay, so very quickly what I'll do is I'll see if, okay, if maybe some of them are not in my red list, so maybe I have missed them to put in the list. So what I'd do is I'd go to daily, and I'll see if I like anything. So what I am looking during this is I'm looking for flags, PBCs, like pullbacks to key moving averages, and tightness. If any name has already that kind of a structure, which right now is very difficult to find, because you know what's been happening in the market for the past 2 to 3 weeks or months. So it's so, for example, Manappuram was slightly what I would look for, right? Slightly, because it's like there is a prior uptrend, and then I mean, there's not picture perfect, but you get the idea. And then if there is already a good setup already, uh, and something which I had already identified previously, I would again put them like slightly ऊपर, है ना, ऐसा करके ऊपर लेके जाएंगे. And the best thing to do is you just sort it by highest percentage. So the strong starts which have gone higher is generally indicative of higher buying power. Okay, so I do all those things, and the moment I go through, like sometimes the names are manageable, sometimes not. In that case, it's very difficult to go through. But after done that, I go to 3 minute time frame, and I have a layout called Homma Favorite Live VWAP. Why live? Because in live I don't need the earnings thing. A lot of the I would like a clean chart. Then why VWAP? Because strong starts, I need automatically VWAP to come to the first candle. Okay, so this is what I do, and and by 9:20 you already have two candles here. Okay, so by 9:20 scan 3 minutes charts, you already have two candles come in, and by the time I do that, like the third candle is coming, right? So that is the uh, that's how I start the day, to be honest. And after that, then the question is like how to trade this. Okay, um, I will go and show some specific examples, like I mentioned, but in a very short time, there are different ways to trade this. One is to buy something right on the open. Now, I personally seldom trade this on the open, and in my opinion, this kind of trading also needs some prior planning. Uh, Already even before something is popped up on strong start, you already are sure that you will buy Sirma tomorrow, not Sirma, that stock tomorrow, right? So for example, that stock could be Sirma, because there's apparently a good fundamental stock, like from a sector which is doing really well, huge tailwinds, and if you'd already decided कि मेरे को Sirma खरीदना है, you could have probably bought it on the open, है ना? The other way to trade it is you wait for other way to trade is as again, like a very uh, uh, a technical way to trade it is that whenever the range of that high is taken out on the upside, then you can trade. I also don't trade this I mean, this is not my go-to way. I mean, you can say that sometimes this coincides with some other thing, but I also generally don't trade ORBs. Okay, what I do is I wait for some specific setups, and those are flags, big base breakouts. Okay, more importantly, along with that, I use AVWAPs. Now in AVWAPs there are two or three sort of setups which I have distinguished and named them, and they are just for my own consumption. I don't mean to like name them as this. Okay, so just for my own consumption, I name them as, one of them is AVWAP bounce, the other one is AVWAP reclaim, and the other one is AVWAP breakout. Now I'll show you all three examples. And these are more so as a confirmation in some ways, some sort of chart pattern setup which is already present. Okay, and the fourth way to trade this would be, um, I mean, go wild, be creative. You don't need to do any of it as long as you manage risk and have a stop loss. You can trade them any which ways you want, right? Because the in my opinion, the uh, probabilities are on the side of the names. Okay, quick pause here. I would like to say that not all strong start names will do well. and you will find that if you use this, not all of them are tradable. Because of the way I have set up the scan, my liquidity criteria is very less. So please make sure that you uh, select liquid names. That's very important. And because I use it for intraday setups as well, be sure you are sizing it appropriately and using stop loss, right? Okay, so hold on. Okay, so once you do that, so for example, I will first of all let me show you some of the names which popped up in the scanner in the recent past. Okay, so Aeroflex came in the scanner on this day. This was an earnings pivot. So the earnings were really great, and it popped up in the scanner right at within the first 5 minutes or 10 or 2 minutes. Bajaj Healthcare popped up here. This was not an earnings pivot, but a this was yeah, January 17 gets exclusive right to manufacture some chemical. Okay, so this was on January 17. It's also caught up. SRF came here on this day. There's a huge gap up, and again, there is no there is, again, I'm heavily relied on TradingView. Like I I'm sure you can see how heavily relied I'm on TradingView, because this is my system now. There is no news as such in SRF, and so I lean uh, for these things to my group. And in HPA, someone told me, I think it was Bahadur who told me that there was some such and such development. And on the same day, not just SRF, Naveen Fluorine also had popped up on the scan. Okay, Naveen Fluorine's chart is not as good as SRF right now, but you get the idea that you can also find groups that move together. Coforge was an earnings gap. Uh, I mean, I'm only showing some of the recent ones which I remember, and I had put it in the list. Kotak was also on this, and I did trade this. Wipro was a earnings gap here. UDS yesterday, Jindal yesterday, although it did fail miserably yesterday, and you can understand partially because of the market environment as well. So it was an earnings gap yesterday. Amy Organic today, but funny thing happened was that I did not know Amy Organic was a earnings gap. Like I said, because I'm heavily relied on this guy, Amy Organic, and the this Reuters report only came at around 10:30 or something, and by that time it's already the best time to buy was already gone, and I was also stuck with Karan. Yeah, Sirma today, right? So these are some of the examples. Now let me show you. I'm already past my time. I'll take 2-3 minutes to show you how I trade, and the best thing to do is I will show you my own trade on Sirma today, right? So I entered here. Like I said, Sirma was a really a good 9% gap here. If you can see, there was a 9% gap. So 9% gap on decent volumes is a really good thing. I already knew it's an earnings pivot. There's a 44% surprise. Like this is good earnings. See, uh, again, I'll tangent into something which is more debatable, which I don't want to do. But anyways, it was really good earnings apparently, and it's a 44% surprise. So it's a good. Uh, so so yeah. So the moment it comes, like I said, I don't enter on the open. I sort of wait for it to form some kind of chart pattern. So this was what this was a flag and pole. Now the pole is invisible here, but it's a 9% pole, mind you. And then there's tightness, and on this candle 932 I entered. Okay, now some people could say that this is also an open range breakout, but I didn't enter it as such. Now it went up, and then very nicely came pulled back, right? This is a pullback setup. Now it pull back, and after lots and lots of observation, I know with really high probability, you have to trust me on this, I don't have the data, right? But this is all from my observation. I know from a very high probability that a strong stock which opened really strong will pull back and bounce from the AVWAP, and the first and the second bounce are generally profitably tradable. Okay, and so I entered, doubled my position here. the moment it like sort of came really close, chuck, and within the next 3 minutes, the actual move came, and by that time I also had a three-fourth placed a sell signal at like 1 point 1 point away from the UC. And the moment here I sold some, and then I carried the rest. Okay, so so you can clearly see here, one is now this is the AV bounce which I was trying to tell you. The other, like let's find some other setup. So for example, you could have bought it here. Amy Organics was also another SS name today. So you could have bought it here. This would have been an AVWAP reclaim. You could have bought it here. This would also have been AVWAP reclaim. Now this is not a very clean chart setup. Most of them are not very clean or bookish, or how they depict on books and Twitter and such. So like I said, my last slide says, be uh, what was the word, be creative. Okay, as long as you manage risk, as long as you make sure that if this goes south you still don't hold it, you're fine. But in general, having triggers will help you to make that decision, system 2 or system 1 banane ke liye. So this could have been an entry where the stock, after clipping the VWAP, is again reclaiming it. um, yeah, so again, this is also sort of the tightness breakout here and all. I was actually watching this, but by that time I was already invested in something else, which was KRN. And I'll show you this because there is a third entry here, which is AVWAP breakout, right? So what happens is, once intraday it forms another flag, then the price action generally gets pinched from two VWAPs. One, the VWAP from the below will act as support, and see, this would have been the AVWAP bounce entry somewhere here. And again, I also traded this. I entered here because after a nice floor, uh, it came out of a tight area. But if you put another VWAP on the top, I'll actually go to 1 minute time frame, because then I will be able to pin the VWAP really nicely on the highs. Okay, so what happens is, once you pin it on the top, then that will act as a resistance, right? So यहाँ पे got slapped. It sort of took, but the next candle got again rejected. At some time it will break out, and one can also use that breakout candle as an entry. If the volumes are there, it's more better, right? So this is another example of how one can use VWAPs to generally trade this. And VWAP trading is separate. You don't have to trade it. You can also trade using AVWAPs in any other time frame and any other stock. But in this particular context, in intraday trading on strong stocks, AVWAP, sort of in my observation, has been even more useful. Okay, so I just wanted to uh, make sure I share that with you guys. Okay, got extended a little bit, more than what I wished, but I will take 5 minutes to answer some of your questions. I hope this has been helpful for all of you guys. Uh, okay, before that, please mute audio issue. So Sudhakar, yes. So Blue Jet healthcare result came during market hours, so that would probably not, that you will not, I mean, the scanner will not be able to catch that. uh, how will you trade or time frame? I think i explained this. How will you select one or two from this output? Yeah, so therein lies the problem, right? So it will not give you just two stocks. Sometimes it will give you a lot. Like I said, what I do, uh, uh, I see that if there is already a name which is already from the red list, so that will get higher priority. uh, I will also see uh, if even if it is not in my red list, if there is a good setup on daily. Like for example, For example, where is it? SRF, right? So if SRF had come today on strong start, I would have definitely taken SRF as well, because SRF is already something which I was looking at. So now again, SRF has results today. Probably it already came out, and judging by the volumes and how it's behaving tomorrow, also it will be a strong start, right? So if it is already something which is set up in daily, I will give the priority more. And yeah, so that's how I do it. Which indicator for VWAP? So VWAP, this is a very common question. I will show you here. So VWAP, there is no indicator as such. I'm pretty sure there are indicators, but you don't have to go there. What you do is, um, so one, two, three, four, fifth from the top, you have forecasting and measurement tools. You go below, this is called anchored VWAP. Okay. You can use this, or what you do is you go to indicators and say VWAP. Hold on. VWAP, and I have favorited it, VWAP auto anchored. So if you have this, then it will automatically anchor it to the first candle of the day. Okay, whichever the time frame you're using. So I have this is VWAP auto anchored. Okay, so that's excuse me, that is the so if you see, because I am in a daily time frame, it is automatically anchoring to some random number, as generally from a swing low. But if I now go to 3 minute, it will anchor itself to the open, I mean the first candle of the day. Okay, so that is the VWAP. Does the higher time frame trend and price structure matter when trading this? The answer is yes and no, partially, because see it see uh, so there are two things, right? So if the higher time frame price i- price action is already a very good setup, like as I already mentioned, that I will give it a higher priority because I think it matters. Yeah, and so yes, but in general, like a market condition like today, uh, even if some of the stocks are does not look really good, like names which gave 20%, like Sirma and stuff like that, they were very oversold, right? So conventional wisdom will not work there, because they really are, and on a daily there is no setup there. But if you again go and study deeply, a lot of a lot of episodic pivots comes from uh, comes on stocks which actually are not available as setup conventionally. Okay, so that's also something uh, to keep in mind. So I'm not sure if I've answered it correctly. Mm, right. RJ, thanks for the question. Anyways, Ashish asks, example, do you exit Sirma today if you find Samhi tomorrow, if it shows up tomorrow, and continue to ride Sirma? This is example, right? So what I did with Sirma, because I think again, like, technically there is no setup, but it's from a deep reversal zone. So generally, if you get an entry in those kind of situations, it generally doesn't come and take that price. Okay. Having said that, right now we are on a downtrend, so I'm not sure about that. Now my idea is to ride Sirma as long as the trend persists. Um, and I believe I got a very good entry today. The Sirma position is also, what's the word, de-risked, right? So one fourth I've already, sorry, three-fourth I've already sold at an 8% gain. So even if it comes and hits my stop loss, it's okay. Now the question then here is, do you exit Sirma today if you find Sami tomorrow? Now today is closed. If I exit Sirma tomorrow, I will not get the money tomorrow itself, because T+1. So maybe I'll see. Okay. Uh, Okay, I don't know if that explains, answers the question. Yeah. Does previous day support and resistance matter in this? The whole premise of using strong start is that whatever small previous days, since you are talking here about previous day support and resistance, so that would not be very strong. So the whole premise is that because it's a strong start, because a lot of the bullishness has been built because of an event, possible event on the prior day, those things will be easily taken care of. So that's the premise. And not just the premise, there's also a lot of assumption there. Do you scan for high RS stock for intraday? No, I don't do that. सिरमा में अपने जब साइज 2x करी देन एसएल कैसे ट्रेल किया आपने? या सो सी दीज आर ये बहुत ही फास्ट करना होता है, राइट? सो द थॉट प्रोसेस इज दैट द सेकंड बाय के नीचे आप हम्म, पहला वाला पोजीशन और नया पोजीशन का दोनों का स्टॉक का एसएल वो सेकंड बाय के नीचे लगा लीजिए. That is one thought process. That was my thought process. Although I was I would have tried hard to not get rid of the first position because of my bias towards bullish bias of Sirma in the long term. But generally this is what I would do. So this is first position, second position. The moment you take uh, you shift your SL below the AVWAP here with the first and second, right? So your risk essentially remains same because in this position would be at break even, and you've doubled your position size with the same amount of risk. Do you analyze the quality of earnings? No, I don't. Partially, and this is not because of anything, but because of my own uh, drawback of my own inability to analyze quality of earnings. In fact, I my go-to way to analyze the quality of earnings is price move. So अच्छा प्राइस एक्शन आया तो बढ़िया रिजल्ट था, खराब प्राइस एक्शन आया तो घटिया रिजल्ट था, राइट? Sudhakar, what about SL and TSL? Uh, like I said, go crazy, be creative as long as you manage your risk. So this part is very personal, and the way I manage risk would not be would not be very textbook kind. But let's say mota mota, if you enter anywhere within the third, fourth, fifth candle, given there is a setup, one good way to place would be below this, and sometimes that can come more than 3-4%, which is again not very ideal for an intraday trade, but then size accordingly, right? And the other thing, especially in bounces, the candle below the bounce is a very good place to put SL. If you are trading AVWAP breakouts, then the candle below the breakout or swing low of that would be a very good place to put your SL. Okay. Second, okay, all right. Okay, there are no more questions. If there are any more
Prakash,
questions,
just one last question.
hi Rohit.
So, do you take entry on in anticipation or confirmation के बाद ही enter करते हो?
Yes, again, like I am not like hell bent on only waiting for confirmation, right? So, for example, in Sirma today, it was a anticipation entry. I did not wait for that bounce, like, but this touch and go. Sometimes I do wait for confirmation, sometimes not. Like I remember before entering this, I remember myself doing this mental exercise of looking at the price action, looking at this, and telling myself that yes, there is a high probability, high probability, high probability. Yeah, sometimes again, this is not a process, but it's touch and go. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Got it. So एक और था उसमें कि time frame. So is it fixated कि 3 मिनट पे ही enter करना है? 1 minute you alternately same वैसे change करते हो?
हाँ, तो
What?
मैं 3 मिनट यूज करता हूँ. मैं मोस्टली आई ट्राई नॉट टू चेंज दैट टू एनी अदर टाइम फ्रेम एक्सेप्ट समटाइम्स व्हेन आई वांट टू रियली make good exits. I do sometimes switch to one, but that is 1 or 2% of the time. I have done multiple iterations of this in my mind. Sometimes 5, 3, 1 in the earlier time, but the thing is, I have chosen 3. It's also a number which divides the total minutes
Yeah,
pure
yeah.
equally.
Over
Yeah,
170 or something. Yeah.
yes, and that's why I think I like 3. I think it should work in any other time frame as well.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. एक और just one last question. So
Sure, sure. हाँ.
जो ये था, what was the question यार? कि एक किसी को पूछ लेने दो. एक था मेरा question, I forgot to ask.
Yeah, I just have one small question. Does this scan also BSE and SME stocks?
Um, Vikram, can you repeat your question?
Does it scan BSE and SME
No,
stock?
this is only NSE stock actually. Yeah.
Okay. And you said about AVP breakout. What is the AVP breakout?
VWAP breakout, I said. So VWAP
Okay.
breakout is like this one, right? So here the VWAP which acts as support is clipped on the is anchored on the open. But if you anchor a VWAP at the swing high, that generally acts as a resistance. Like in this case, you clearly see that that's acting as a resistance, right? So when this resisting VWAP breaks out on the upside, then that can also be used as a trigger to enter.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So let's
Thank
So
you.
I just recollected what I wanted to ask you. So इसमें जब भी इंट्राडे में कर रहे हो एंट्री, so
हाँ जी।
basically पोजीशन साइज कैसे डिसाइड किया कि एक एंट्री में इतना मतलब
हाँ, तो
रिस्क
ये देखो रोहित, ये बहुत पर्सनल मैटर है, राइट? जैसे मैंने बोला कि पोजीशन साइजिंग बहुत पर्सनल है। लाइक कोई 10 स्टॉक यूज़ करता है 10-10% एलोकेशन से, कोई 50% से 2 स्टॉक रखता है ना? तो द राइट आंसर टू इज़ अकॉर्डिंग टू योर रिस्क एपेटाइट, यू नो? Uh, yeah, so I sometimes size it as much as 2% of my total equity on a single trade. Now, would you do that? That's your, I mean, that's a question you have to ask yourself.
राइट
Yeah. Should we use this setup when we expect a bounce in number of, so RJ, in general, like I said, this is going through the strong start list for me is now part of my system. And why, like I said, not just in earning season, but it will also give you some other episodic pivots. Like for example, let's see, one thing I forgot to do that. I just wanted to go through all of this to show you how many of them are actually pivots, episodic pivots. Yeah, these are the names which came today. Ixigo was also in earnings, but it did, but the first 3 minute it did not clear the first minute, right? So yeah, this was the first 3rd minute candle, and this was previous day high. So ये clear नहीं किया तो ये मेरे scanner पे नहीं आया. But in general, the other names, the other 17 names. Oh, sorry. Let's actually see how many them are EPs. Amy Organic is an EP. Sirma is an EP. Indowind is not an EP. Oh, hold on. इसका तो अर्निंग्स आने वाला है, तो ये क्यों भागा आज? तो मैं ऐसे देखता हूँ जनवरी 13, तो इसमें अगर कोई न्यूज़ भी है तो ट्रेडिंग व्यू को अभी तक पता नहीं है, तो मेरे को भी नहीं पता, तो मैं नहीं मानूंगा इसको ईपी. वेब ग्लोबल वाज एन ईपी बिकॉज होल्ड ऑन, यहाँ पे आज अर्निंग्स का डेट है, मेरे को पता नहीं इसका अर्निंग्स आया कि नहीं, तो आई डोंट नो इसमें क्या हुआ अगेन, है ना? तो वाबाग जैसे आज अर्निंग्स ईपी नहीं था, बट देयर वाज अ न्यूज़ हियर 7 hours ago. Wabag new order up to 14 million in Bahrain, है ना? तो this was also an episodic pivot, not an earnings pivot, but an episodic pivot. तो SIS was an earnings pivot, है ना? KPI ग्रीन में भी कुछ तो न्यूज़ है यहाँ पे, देखो 7 hours ago कुछ MOU टाइप कुछ साइन हुआ है. तो इवन इफ यू डोंट, इवन इफ देयर इज नो अर्निंग सीजन, ये उछालेगा, कोई कोई ना कोई न्यूज़ बेस्ड उस पे उछालेगा ये, है ना? तो ये बहुत ही मेरे हिसाब से 5 मिनट चाहिए मार्केट के स्टार्टिंग में, अगर ये चला लो तो आपने आप इट बिकम्स अ गुड पार्ट ऑफ द सिस्टम. इट बेसिकली आल्सो टेल्स यू a lot of things about group strength, with in general some in some other ways might not be visible to you, right? यहाँ इसका भी अर्निंग्स पे था, तो so you can see that Mannapuram is away from earnings. Not sure if there is any nothing here. Kitex, I'm not interested. Uni-Ecom, also I think, hold on, इसमें कुछ नहीं दिखा रहा है. Exide घटिया earnings था ये. I think yesterday it missed earnings, so I don't know. Anyways, so I sidetracked your question. Out of the names, hold on, which question was it? So I use it every day, okay? Every day to run, to get the feel of the market. And if there is some really good setup, then I would probably or trade it. Priyanka Ghosh asks, will this setup work only? I just explained that it will work everywhere, given if there is actually an event. Rishabh, out of the names in strong, yes, I think you joined late. I did mention this already. Got it. Okay, guys. 8:52, 22 minutes. Sudhakar asks again, be, what is the word? Fucking hell. What's the word? Be creative, Sudhakar. Like, you just have to manage risk at the end of the day. SL touch basis भी चलेगा, 3 minute candle closing basis पे भी चलेगा, है ना? As long as you get out without losing X%, which you already know that इससे ज़्यादा तो मेरे को तकलीफ होएगा. All right, guys. This was a great chat. Let me know if you guys have any more questions. I am almost always available to chat on my group. There is a group called Brocket Academy, Brocket, Bureaus who post rockets. So join that group and always up for a chat. I would probably post this video also on YouTube, so you can also catch it there. Do share it if you like it, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.